video, it destroyed everything around me. But the worst part, my daughter saw it.
I thought my biggest worry was Leo's shoelaces, not the apocalypse in an iPad case. Tuesday morning started like any other disaster in the Harper household. My 7-year-old son Leo was frantically searching for his tablet, while my wife Melissa rushed around our suburban Cleveland home, coffee in one hand, phone glued to her ear. "Eddie, have you seen Leo's iPad?" Melissa called out, not bothering to look up from her screen. She'd been like this for months, distracted, secretive, always rushing off to work events and girls' nights. "Check the kitchen counter," I replied, adjusting my tie. As an IT security manager, I appreciated organization. Too bad my family didn't share that trait. Leo grabbed what looked like his tablet from the pile of electronics on the counter. "Got it, Dad?" "Wait, that's not—" Melissa started. Then her phone buzzed. "Never mind, I'm late for my marketing meeting." She kissed my cheek absently and rushed out, leaving behind her usual cloud of expensive perfume and anxiety. I'd been married to Melissa for 10 years, and lately something felt off. She was working later, texting more, and treating our conversations like inconvenient interruptions. At 10:47 a.m., my phone exploded. "Mr. Harper? This is Principal Rowe at Eastwood Elementary. You need to come here immediately." The panic in her voice made my stomach drop. "Is Leo hurt? Just, please come now. And Mr. Harper, bring your lawyer." The 15-minute drive felt like hours. Police cars lined the school parking lot, and I could see parents gathering in worried clusters. My sarcastic inner voice kicked in, my usual defense mechanism. "Great. I always wanted to be the dad with the police escort." Principal Rowe met me at the entrance, her face pale. "Mr. Harper, we need to discuss what happened in Mrs. Peterson's classroom this morning." She led me to her office, where Officer D'Angelo waited, looking uncomfortable. Leo sat in a corner chair, looking confused and scared. "Dad, I didn't do anything wrong," he said, running to hug me. "What's going on?" I demanded. Principal Rowe gestured to the iPad on her desk. Melissa's iPad, I realized with growing dread. "Your son was showing his classmates what he thought were educational videos for his presentation. Instead—" She turned the screen toward me, and my world imploded. Explicit videos filled the screen. My wife without clothes, with multiple men. One was clearly Darren Brooks, that fitness influencer she'd mentioned meeting at the gym. Others were partially masked, but obviously familiar. I recognized Ty, Darren's gym buddy, and what looked like our neighbor Jake. The room spun. 23 years of marriage, and I'm discovering my wife's extracurricular activities through my son's school presentation. The irony wasn't lost on me. She always said she was flexible. Guess I didn't know how much. 27 children saw this content before we could stop the presentation, Principal Rowe continued. "We've contacted all the parents. This is unprecedented." Officer D'Angelo leaned forward. "Mr. Harper, we need to know. Did you have any knowledge of these recordings?" "None," I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. "This is the first I'm seeing any of this." My phone buzzed incessantly. Melissa calling, her friends calling, everyone in full panic mode. I ignored them all. "Do you want to press charges?" Officer D'Angelo asked. I looked at Leo, then at the screen showing my wife's betrayal in high definition. Something cold and calculating settled in my chest. Not yet. The parking lot confrontation was inevitable. Melissa arrived 20 minutes after me, her BMW screeching into the school parking lot like she was auditioning for an action movie. Behind her came the cavalry, her best friends Jenna and Tara, both looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. "Eddie!" Melissa rushed toward me, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. "Let me explain." "Explain what? The cinematography, the lighting? Because, honestly, the production values were impressive." She flinched at my tone. Good. I'd spent an hour in that principal's office watching my son's innocence evaporate while school officials discussed crisis management and psychological counseling. "It wasn't what it looked like," she started. "Really?" "Because it looked like my wife starring in amateur adult content with half the neighborhood." Jenna stepped forward, her usual gossipy confidence replaced by nervous energy. "Eddie, you don't understand the pressure Mel's been under at work. This was just stress relief." I laughed, actually laughed. "Stress relief? I thought that's what yoga was for. Silly me." Tara tried a different approach. "Look, we all make mistakes. What matters is how we handle this moving forward." "You're right," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm handling it by documenting everything. Smile, ladies. You're about to be part of the story." Melissa lunged for my phone, but I'd spent years in IT security. I knew how to protect my devices. Don't make this worse, Mel. Worse! Her mask slipped, revealing the calculating woman I'd been too blind to see. You're the one making it worse. This could have stayed private if you'd just handled it quietly. Like you handled our marriage quietly? The crowd of parents was growing, phones out, recording everything. Melissa realized we had an audience and switched tactics, grabbing my arm with practiced desperation. Please, Eddie, think about Leo. Think about our family. I am thinking about Leo. That's why I'm not letting this slide. I walked away, leaving her standing there with her enablers. As I loaded Leo into my car, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off or I'll bury you. D. Darren Brooks, the fitness influencer with more muscles than brain cells. This was about to get interesting. That evening, after Leo was in bed, I sat in my home office reviewing the evidence. Melissa had moved to the guest room. To give us space to think, she'd said. More likely to coordinate damage control with her accomplices. The videos weren't just random hookups. They were organized, planned, filmed in multiple locations over months. Our bedroom, Darren's apartment, even what looked like Jenna's pool house. This wasn't a mistake or momentary weakness. This was a systematic betrayal. My phone rang. Greg, my colleague, and one of my few real friends. Dude, I just heard. Are you okay? Define okay. Fair point. What are you going to do? I stared at the evidence spread across my desk. I'm going to remind everyone why you don't mess with the IT guy. By Thursday morning, the story had legs. Someone at the school, probably that substitute teacher who always looked like she lived for drama, had tipped off the local gossip blog, Cleveland Confidential. The headline read, Marketing Executives X-rated School Presentation Shocks Elementary Students. They didn't use names, but in a community like ours, anonymity was impossible. My phone hadn't stopped ringing. Reporters, parents, and curiosity seekers all wanted the inside scoop on the scandal that was trending on local social media. Melissa was in full crisis mode, hiring a PR firm and threatening lawsuits against anyone who shared the story. Her strategy was predictable. Play the sufferer, claim the videos were revenge adult content, paint me as the vindictive husband. That's when I decided to go on offense. The emergency school board meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening. The auditorium was packed with parents demanding answers, reporters hoping for drama, and school officials trying to maintain order. I arrived early, taking a seat in the front row where everyone could see me. Melissa entered with her legal team, 2 lawyers in expensive suits who looked like they'd rather be billing hours for corporate mergers than small-town sex scandals. She'd dressed for sympathy. Conservative blouse, minimal makeup, the picture of a reformed woman seeking redemption. Darren showed up too because apparently he thought this was a networking event. He wore his usual tight t-shirt and jeans, filming himself for his Instagram story. Dealing with some crazy drama tonight, but your boy D stays strong, he whispered to his phone camera. Board President Mrs. Chen called for order. We're here to address the incident at Eastwood Elementary and discuss measures to prevent similar situations. Parent after parent stood up, demanding accountability. Some blamed the school's security measures. Others questioned how such content could exist in the first place. The room's energy was building towards something explosive. Finally, Melissa's lawyer stood up. My client is the sufferer here. These private recordings were stolen and distributed without consent. We're exploring all legal options against those responsible for this violation of privacy. That's when I stood up. May I respond to that? Mrs. Chen looked uncomfortable but nodded. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Harper. I walked to the microphone, feeling 200 pairs of eyes on me. The room fell silent. My name is Eddie Harper, and I'm Leo's father. I'm also apparently the husband of the woman whose private recordings traumatized 27 children on Tuesday morning. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Melissa's face went white. I want to be clear about something. These weren't revenge adult content. These weren't stolen private moments between a married couple. These were professionally filmed encounters between my wife and multiple partners, stored on a device that she carelessly left accessible to our 7-year-old son. The murmurs became gasps. Phones appeared, recording everything. I guess family values mean something different in our house. At least now everyone gets a peek behind the curtain. Melissa's lawyer was on his feet, objecting, but I wasn't done. My son thought he was bringing educational content to school. Instead, he accidentally shared his mother's educational content, though I'm not sure what subject it was supposed to teach. The room erupted. Some people were laughing, others shouting. Mrs. Chen was hitting her gavel, trying to restore order. Melissa was crying. Real tears this time, not the practiced ones she'd been using all week. I returned to my seat as chaos swirled around me. Mission accomplished. Outside in the parking lot, I found my car vandalized. Cuck was spray painted across the driver's side door, and someone had left a dead rat on the windshield. A note was tucked under the wiper. Final warning. I took photos of everything, then called the police. Officer D'Angelo arrived within minutes. Any idea who might have done this? I showed him Darren's threatening text from earlier. Just a hunch. As I drove home in my vandalized car, I realized I'd crossed a line tonight. There was no going back to quiet dignity and private resolution. This was war now, and I intended to win. Friday morning brought new developments. Darren had posted a workout video with not-so-subtle commentary about guys who can't handle competition and weak men who blame others for their failures. He was flexing in his home gym, sweaty and smug, clearly enjoying his role as the alpha male who'd conquered the suburban dad. That's when I decided to visit his world. Darren trained at Elite Fitness, one of those gyms where everyone looked like they were auditioning for reality TV. I'd done my research. He was there every Friday at 2 p.m., holding court with his followers and filming content for his social media empire. I arrived early and got to work. Using my IT skills and a few printed photos from Melissa's collection, I created flyers with Darren's face and the text, "Ask Darren about his amateur films, now showing at Eastwood Elementary." I slipped them into lockers, taped them to mirrors, and left stacks in the locker room. By the time Darren arrived, the gym was buzzing. His usual admirers were snickering, taking photos of the flyers and sharing them online. His face went from confused to furious as he realized what was happening. "Who did this?" he shouted, ripping flyers down as fast as he could find them. I was in the parking garage when he spotted me. "You?" The chase was on. Darren and his sidekick Ty ran after me through the concrete maze of the parking garage. I'm not faster than a fitness influencer, but I'm smarter, and I know how to use terrain to my advantage. "You think you're clever?" Darren yelled, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. "You're nothing! She came to me because you couldn't satisfy her!" I ducked behind a pillar as they thundered past. "At least I satisfied her emotionally," I called back. "Oh, wait! That's not what those videos showed either." Ty was filming everything, because of course he was. "Bro, this is going to get so many views!" I made it to the stairwell and started climbing. They followed, their gym-trained legs giving them an advantage on the stairs. By the 4th floor, I was breathing hard, but I had a plan. The parking garage connected to the mall via a sky bridge. I sprinted across, Darren and Ty close behind, drawing stares from shoppers who probably thought they were witnessing some kind of fitness flash mob. In the mall, I had the advantage. I knew the layout, the service corridors, the delivery areas. I led them on a chase through the food court, past the anchor stores, and finally to the loading dock where I'd parked my backup transportation, Greg's motorcycle, borrowed specifically for this occasion. "See you online, boys," I called, firing up the bike and roaring away as Darren and Ty stood there, sweaty and defeated. That evening, I found a package on my doorstep. Inside was a USB drive and an anonymous note. "You want more? There's plenty where this came from." I plugged in the drive and discovered it contained even more compromising material, videos I hadn't seen before, including some that appeared to show Melissa and her friends planning their activities, discussing how to keep everything secret from their husbands. Someone else was playing this game, and they were on my side. The weekend brought nuclear escalation. Melissa's inner circle was in full damage control mode, but their strategy was to destroy me, rather than contain the scandal. Monday morning, I received a call from HR at my company. "Eddie, we need to discuss some allegations that have been brought to our attention." Melissa had gone to my employer, claiming I was emotionally abusive, that I'd threatened her and her friends, that I was using my IT skills to stalk and bother them. She'd convinced Jenna and Tara to provide supporting statements, painting me as an unstable husband who'd snapped when confronted with his own inadequacies. "These are serious accusations," my HR director said. "We're going to need you to take some time off while we investigate." I'd expected this move. Melissa was smart enough to know that destroying my career would limit my ability to fight back. What she didn't expect was that I'd prepared for it. "Before you make any decisions," I said, "I think you should see this." I showed them the USB drive contents, not the explicit material, but the planning videos where Melissa and her friends discussed manipulating their husbands, hiding money, and using false allegations as weapons if they ever got caught. This is the woman making accusations against me, I explained, and these are her character references. The investigation was quietly dropped, but I wasn't done. If Melissa wanted to play dirty, I'd show her what dirty really looked like. Tuesday at lunch, I showed up at her marketing firm's office building. They were having their monthly company picnic in the plaza outside. Perfect timing. I'd called ahead, claiming to be a delivery person with an urgent package for Melissa Harper. She was holding court with her colleagues, probably spinning some version of events that made her the sufferer of a vindictive ex-husband. I walked up with a tablet and a portable speaker. "Melissa, your delivery's here." She turned, saw me, and her face went white. "Eddie, what are you doing here?" "Just thought your coworkers might want to see what kind of marketing content you've been creating in your spare time." I hit play on the tablet. The planning video filled the screen. Melissa and her friends laughing about their affairs, discussing how to gaslight their husbands, making jokes about stupid men who never see what's right in front of them. The crowd gathered, phones came out, and Melissa's professional reputation evaporated in real time. Her boss, a conservative woman in her 60s, looked like she'd swallowed something toxic. "This is harassment!" Melissa screamed, lunging for the tablet. "This is accountability!" I replied, easily keeping the device out of her reach. "Maybe your next marketing campaign should focus on honesty in advertising." Security arrived, but the damage was done. The video was already spreading online, shared by dozens of her colleagues who just discovered what their respected coworker really thought of marriage and commitment. That evening, Melissa was fired. Her friends Jenna and Tara, caught on camera calling her a sloppy mess and worrying about their own marriages being exposed, began distancing themselves from the scandal. But Darren wasn't giving up. That night, I followed him to a rooftop party at some downtown loft. While he was inside, probably trying to salvage his reputation with his fitness influencer crowd, I got to work on his precious Jeep. I didn't damage anything permanently. I'm not a vandal, but I did fill his exhaust pipe with shrimp from the party's catering, and I may have accidentally spilled some protein powder in his gas tank. The repair bill would be substantial, and the smell would be unforgettable. Unfortunately, Darren and Ty caught me in the act. "You think you're so smart," Darren snarled, cornering me on the rooftop. "But you're just a pathetic loser who couldn't keep his wife happy." "And you're a steroid-addled narcissist who thinks muscles are a personality," I shot back. The fight was brief but intense. Darren had size and strength, but I had desperation and the high ground. When he charged at me, I sidestepped and watched him crash into a stack of party chairs. Ty was still filming, because priorities. "Dude, this is better than Netflix." I made my escape by jumping onto a passing garbage truck, not my most dignified moment, but effective. As I rode away, clinging to the side of the truck like some middle-aged action hero, I could hear Darren screaming threats that would probably end up as evidence in court. The war was escalating, but I was winning. Wednesday brought desperate moves from desperate people. Melissa showed up at my house at 6 a.m., looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her perfect hair was a mess. Her makeup was smeared, and she was wearing the same clothes from the day before. "Eddie, please," she begged, standing on our front porch like a broken woman. "I'll do anything. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. Start over. Pretend none of this happened." I looked at her through the screen door. This woman I'd loved for 10 years, now reduced to bargaining for scraps of the life she'd thrown away. "You already did everything, Mel. That was the problem. I made mistakes, but we all make mistakes. You can't destroy our entire family over some stupid videos. I didn't make those videos. I didn't cheat on our marriage. I didn't traumatize our son. You did all that. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are." Her tears turned to anger in seconds, the real Melissa emerging from behind the sufferer mask. "You coward. You think you're so righteous, but you're just a vindictive little man who can't handle that his wife needed more than he could give." "There it is," I said. "The truth finally comes out." She left, but not before keying my car and screaming loud enough to wake the entire neighborhood. Mrs. Lee, my elderly neighbor, watched the whole thing from her garden and gave me a thumbs up when Melissa drove away. That afternoon, Melissa's parents called, threatening lawsuits and demanding I stop this madness before it destroys everyone. I'd already moved our joint assets to secure accounts and hired a lawyer who specialized in divorce cases involving infidelity. I was 3 steps ahead of their legal threats. The weekend brought the city's annual summer festival, a perfect opportunity for the final act of this drama. I'd spent days planning, using my IT skills to set up something special. I sent messages to both Melissa and Darren, claiming I wanted to meet for a peace talk to discuss how to move forward for Leo's sake. They both showed up, probably hoping to manipulate me into silence one last time. What they didn't know was that I'd set up a wireless microphone system and was live streaming everything to social media. The festival was crowded, perfect for maximum exposure. I'd positioned myself near the main stage, where hundreds of people were gathered for the evening concert. "Thank you both for coming," I said as they approached. "I think it's time we had an honest conversation about what happened." Melissa immediately went into sufferer mode. "Eddie, I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you, but we can work through this together." "Tell me about the planning," I said. "Tell me how long you've been organizing these encounters." "What planning? I don't know what you mean." I held up my phone, showing the video from the USB drive. "This planning, where you and your friends discussed how to manipulate your husbands while you cheated on them." The crowd was starting to pay attention. Phones were coming out. People were recognizing us from the news coverage. Darren tried to salvage the situation. "Look, man, things got out of hand. But Melissa came to me. I didn't pursue her." "Really? Tell everyone about your Instagram DMs. Tell them about how you specifically targeted married women for your conquests." The wireless microphone was broadcasting everything to the crowd and streaming live online. Melissa realized what was happening and lunged for my phone, but it was too late. "You set us up!" she screamed. "You set yourselves up," I replied. "I just provided the stage." Darren tried to attack me, but festival security was already moving in. He slipped on some spilled beer and fell backwards into the dunk tank that was set up for the charity booth. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Melissa and Darren, soaked and humiliated, fled the festival while hundreds of people booed and recorded their retreat. The live stream had thousands of viewers, and the clips were already going viral on every social media platform. The final confrontation came sooner than expected. That night, while I was putting Leo to bed, my security system alerted me that someone was breaking into the house. I'd installed cameras everywhere after the car vandalization, and now they were about to pay off. Darren was in my living room, trashing the place in a rage-fueled tantrum. He was throwing furniture, breaking picture frames, and spray-painting threats on the walls. What he didn't know was that everything was being recorded and automatically uploaded to cloud storage. More importantly, the cameras were streaming live to my social media accounts. Thousands of people were watching Darren destroy my home in real time, and the comments were brutal. I called the police, then decided to end this myself. I sent Leo to Mrs. Lee's house and drove to Darren's apartment complex, where I knew he'd return after his vandalism spree. His apartment was in chaos when I arrived. Empty protein containers everywhere, furniture overturned, the smell of desperation and steroids thick in the air. Darren was there with Ty and a few other gym rats, probably planning their next move. I knocked on the door. "Darren, time for our final conversation." He opened the door, surprised to see me. "You? How did you find me?" "GPS tracking on your phone. You really should read those terms of service agreements more carefully." I pushed past him into the apartment where his friends were watching the live stream of his break-in on their phones. "Enjoying the show?" I asked them. "Your boy here just committed breaking and entering on camera. That's a felony." Darren's girlfriend, a fitness model named Crystal, was there too. She looked confused and angry. "Darren, what is this guy talking about?" "What videos?" I smiled and pulled out my tablet. "Let me show you what your boyfriend has been doing in his spare time." The explicit videos played on the screen, showing Darren with multiple women, including my wife. Crystal's face went from confusion to disgust to rage in seconds. "You cheating piece of garbage!" she screamed, throwing a protein shake at his head. "We're done!" She stormed out, taking half his friends with her. Ty was still filming because apparently he thought this was all content for his social media. "Dude, this is insane," he kept saying. "This is better than reality TV." I turned to Darren, who was dripping with protein shake and humiliation. "You always said you liked it thick." The police arrived as I was leaving, called by multiple neighbors who'd heard the screaming. Darren was arrested for breaking and entering, vandalism, and harassment. The evidence was overwhelming. Thousands of witnesses had watched him commit crimes on live stream. But Melissa wasn't finished. The next morning, she tried one last desperate gambit. She'd fabricated evidence of domestic mistreatment, claiming I'd been violent and threatening throughout our marriage. She had fake photos, coached testimony from her remaining friends, and a restraining order request. What she didn't have was credibility. The judge had seen the viral videos, the live streams, and the evidence of her systematic deception. When her lawyer presented the mistreat allegations, I simply played the planning videos where she and her friends discussed using false accusations as weapons. Your Honor, I said, this is exactly what she said she would do if she got caught. The restraining order was denied. Her lawyer withdrew from the case. Her remaining friends abandoned her completely. That evening, Melissa and Darren made their final stand. They cornered me outside Leo's school, probably hoping to intimidate me into silence through sheer desperation. You've destroyed everything, Melissa hissed. My career, my reputation, my life. Are you happy now? You destroyed those things yourself. I just made sure everyone could see it. Darren was out on bail, facing multiple felony charges, his sponsorship deals canceled, his social media accounts suspended. He looked like a broken man. This isn't over, he threatened weakly. Yes, it is. A crowd was gathering. Other parents, school staff, curious onlookers who recognized us from the viral videos. Someone called the police, and sirens were approaching. Melissa made one last attempt at manipulation. Think about Leo. Think about what this is doing to him. I am thinking about Leo, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm thinking about raising him to understand that actions have consequences, that betrayal has a price, and that sometimes good people have to fight back against those who try to destroy them. The police arrived, led by Officer D'Angelo, who'd been following this case from the beginning. The crowd was firmly on my side, cheering, applauding, recording everything for posterity. Melissa and Darren were forced to leave, publicly shamed and legally defeated. They had nothing left. No reputation, no career prospects, no friends, no leverage. They'd gambled everything on their ability to manipulate and destroy, and they'd lost completely. I stood there in the evening light, bruised but victorious, surrounded by a community that had witnessed justice served in real time. Leo ran up to me from the school, where he'd been safely inside during the confrontation. Dad, are we going home now? I looked down at my son, this innocent boy who'd accidentally triggered the exposure of a web of lies and betrayal that had been poisoning our family for months. Ready to go home? Leo nodded, trusting and brave. I smiled, feeling truly free for the first time in years. Let's grab ice cream. You've earned it, and so have I. As we walked away hand in hand, the crowd was still cheering. The sirens were fading into the distance. The cameras were still rolling, documenting the final victory of truth over deception, of loyalty over betrayal, of an ordinary father who'd refused to be destroyed by those who'd underestimated him. The war was over. Justice had been served. And for the first time in months, I could look my son in the eye with pride.